Going live. Hello, and we're live. Hi, folks. Hi, Victor. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Doghouse. Chapter 31 of our Dune book club tonight. Thought we're just popping on a wee moment early to make sure everything's okay. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, it's Thursday, 10 o'clock. And we're getting back into the swing of things, hopefully, with our book club. So we'll give it a few minutes, obviously, just to let everybody pop into the room. So if you're there, say hello, folks. Quite a busy wee chapter, this, actually, chapter 31. And quite a lot going on, and it's like another beginning, isn't it? And the sound is good. Thank you, Brad. I hadn't even bothered to check. I'm still a bit scatty these days at the moment. There's Tilios Dawiz. Howdy, dog. Howdy. Tilios, that's Babs, isn't it? Rolando Sada, howdy, dog. Hi, Rolando. Thank you very much for joining us. Evening Factor. Brad says, unfortunately, I can't be on for long. Oh, sorry to hear that, Brad. Hope you're keeping well, by the way. As always, we'll pop it up on the channel on the playlist. If you know how it is, Babs. Yeah, I thought so. I remember that. Dawes, Tilios Dawes. How are you keeping, Babs? Hope you're keeping well. So thanks very much for joining me. There's all sorts of things going on in the science fiction and fantasy world these days at the minute, isn't there? It's quite busy out there. Some of it good, some of it not so good. But there we go. There's 10 o'clock, I suppose, and we can get started. It's quite a lengthy wee chapter, this. And of course, it's a pretty good one, I think. Where, of course, the Atreides, Paul and Jessica, meet the Fremen. There's Joseph Smith saying hello, and then Tony Stewart saying, I'm so glad we're back. I missed you all so much. Likewise, but there's Cynthia saying good evening, Doc. Hi, Cynthia. Thanks for joining us. There's Factor. Hi, Factor. Oh, the gang's all here. Most of us, anyway. Yeah. It's good to have you all here, folks. Thank you very much for taking the time to join me. It's very gratifying, I have to say. Chapter 31. As I said, yeah, lots going on here. A fair bit of, I suppose, a fair bit of dialogue in this chapter. And we get a bit of a couple of pairings. But we get to see Jessica in action quite brilliantly, I think, in this chapter. In a situation of real threat. And Paul very much takes, I suppose, backstage in this chapter, doesn't he? But we also start to get, I suppose, to meet the Fremen and slowly get immersed in their culture and their language. And within this chapter as well, how Jessica starts to get a register on the Fremen is through their language. It's quite particularly the language Chicopsa. Excuse me. So yeah, and very interesting chapter, I think. Let's have a wee look at the epigraph, if I can just find it in my book. Oh, I was just thinking, actually, as we're going, we've been talking about. I think somebody pointed out another misprint the other week, and I think we've got quite an odd one, quite an important, quite a bizarre misprint, I think, in this chapter, and I think it's kind of known to quite a lot of Dune readers. But I suppose, I think it was Chaya suggested maybe it was about time I got a different copy of the book. The one thing I noted was I was wondering if this book is going to survive me reading it. And it's really looking strongly at no. I'm getting a big seam developing in the text. And I think it's going to split on me at some point quite soon, which is sad. So there we go. Anyway, let's have a look at the epigraph. I'll just read it as usual. Prophecy and prescience. How can they be put to the test in the face of the unanswered questions? Consider, how much is actual prediction of the waveform, as Muad'Dib referred to his vision image, and how much is the prophet shaping the future to fit the prophecy? What of the harmonics inherent in the act of prophecy? Does the prophet see the future, or does he see a line of weakness, a fault or cleavage that he may shatter with words or decisions, as a diamond cutter shatters his gem with a blow of a knife. Excuse me. Private Reflections on Muad'Dib by the Princess Irulan. So in particular, I suppose the gist of it, and we're going to get a bit of that in this chapter, is how do we put these things to the test? And I suppose how much of it is prediction? How much is the prophet shaping the future to fit the prophecy, I suppose? And what again talks about waveforms, harmonics, etc. Within this chapter, I suppose we're going to see elements of the prophecy, part of the missionaria protectiva, presented, used, and manipulated for Jessica and Paul's behalf, basically, or for their benefit. And we're going to get to see a little bit of Jessica's thinking in relation to the missionaria protectiva. And I suppose, yeah, we'll get to see how the relationship, once we get there, how the relationship between the Fremen and the Atreides is going to progress. There's Chris Gibson saying, "How do, Doc?" Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining us. We just read the epigraph there. So let's get straight into it. I suppose immediate threat, I suppose, is how this chapter begins. Get their water. The man calling out of the night had said. And we're told that Paul fights down his fear, glances at his mother. His trained eyes saw her readiness for battle, the waiting whip snap of her muscles. And of course, we have this other voice. It would be regrettable should we have to destroy you out of hand. Now, Jessica, as I said, Jessica ready for battle here. Jessica, quite impressive in this chapter, I think. And we go to her point of view, the one who spoke first. There's at least two of them, one to the right, one to the left. Yeah, and I've just made a wee note. It kind of reminds me a wee bit on the way the left-right sort of point of view was going in the previous chapter with Liet Kynes. And we get this phrase, Signoro Harobsa Succorus hin manga lepagavas doami kamavas nabeslas lere pal hrobas. I did my best there. And that's a bit of this, obviously, this Fremen language. An unknown language. The man to the right is calling out across the basin, voice number 2, as I've put it here. And to Paul, this is gibberish. But to Jessica and her Bene Gesserit training, she recognizes the speech as Chikosa, which is an ancient hunting language. Let me see. And we're told that the man above was saying that perhaps these were the strangers that they sought. Now, I've made a wee note on Chikosa, but I think I've done it later on in my chapter. Let me see. Leave it on here somewhere. Let me just jump ahead to see if I can find it. Let's see. And Chikosa is a real language. Let me see if I can find it. If not, we'll come back to it, folks, because I do have a wee note on it somewhere. But I think it's more towards the end, actually. Let's have a wee look. Let me see if I can remember myself. Chikosa would be. Let me see. Would it be a northwestern Caucasus language? It's described, I think, as both a hunting language and a court language, I believe. Let me see if I can find. No, look, I can't find it. I know it's here somewhere, but it's later on, so we'll come back to it. But yeah, based on a real language. The language, of course, that's in Dune isn't, from my understanding, somebody's done a wee bit of work on it, so there isn't any actual, I think, real Chikosa within what we're hearing in the story. Right, let's have a wee look. Adept Charles saying, hello, Charles. Hello, Carol, how's it going? Hope you're keeping well. Oh, let me see. Jumping ahead there. Sorry, let's just get back to where we were. So Chakotay is actually a hunting language, also described as a court language. And within Dune, this is the speech of the Fremen, and it is, in this case, an ancient hunting language as well. So probably a nod definitely to the real thing. A real-life secret language used by the medieval Circassian knights and princes. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, obviously I've got a wee note on it somewhere, but I think I've made it later on in the chapter rather than at the start where I should have Karen. So thank you very much for that. Interesting thing, that, isn't it? And of course, it's going to be through their language that Jessica is able to sort of pick up a fair bit about the Fremen, start to understand them a bit. Let's see where we're at. Now, the man above. Let's see. Oh, number 3. In the sudden silence followed the calling voice of the hoop-wheeled face of the second moon, faintly ivory blue, rolled over the rocks across the basin, bright and peering. Scrambling sounds came from the rocks above and to both sides, dark motions in the moonlight. Many figures flowed through the shadows. A whole troop, Paul thought, with a sudden pang. There we are. And we have, I suppose it's this kind of little motif throughout this chapter where the moon reveals people, if you like, faces in the troop, etc. Yeah, so Paul. So this tall man in mottled burnous, stepped in front of Jessica. His mouth baffle was thrown aside for clear speech, revealing a heavy beard in the sidelight of the moon, but face and eyes were hidden in the overhang of his hood. So they're all still very mysterious. And what have we here? Jinn or human? He asked. Now, again, we go to Jessica's point of view. And what we're told is that she hears the true banter in his voice, and she allows herself a faint hope. So that there's something kind of amused in this man's voice that's not too serious, a bit of banter. And that he's looking, there's something about his looking for conversation, perhaps. And this allows her hope. There's the voice of command, the voice that had first shocked them with its intrusion from the night. Human, I warrant, the man said. And Jessica, we're told, again, her senses picking this up, rather than saw the knife hidden, she sensed it in the fold of the man's robe. She permitted herself one bitter regret, that she and Paul had no shields. And I suppose there's that kind of, always that thinking of shields with the Atreides, Do you also speak? The man asked. So Jessica, with basically brings all of her, what we're told is all of her royal arrogance, at her, all of it that she has at her command, into her manner and voice, and gets the sense that the reply is urgent. She had not heard enough of this man to be certain she had a register on his culture and weaknesses. So, with all her majestic sounding majesty, if you want to put it that way, who comes on us like criminals in the night? I imagine being quite haughty in the way she speaks there. We're told the burnous-headed man showed tension in a sudden twist and then slow relaxation that revealed much. The man had good control. So, of course, everything's being picked up by Jessica. Full attention to everything about this man, his movement, listening to his voice, his tone, etc., etc. And let's see. Sorry, bear with me a wee second. Yeah, I said slow relaxation that revealed much. The man had good control. She's paying attention. So Paul shifts away at this point from his mother to separate them as targets and to give each of them a clearer arena of action. And the hooded head turned at Paul's movement, opening a wedge of face to moonlight. Jessica saw, and here a bit of a description again: sharp nose, one glinting eye, dark, so dark the eye without any white in it, a heavy brow, and upturned mustache. So part of this man's face still hidden, but we're getting a slight glimmer of him. It's a little bit, little revealing a little bit at a time, showing, keeping the mystery up. A likely club, the man says. If you're a fugitive from the Harkonnens, it may be you're welcome among us. What is it, boy? And so we have Paul, as I said, he's shifting away from his mum, separating them, making sure that they're two different targets rather than one small group together. And he's engaged by this man. And of course, he thinks about what this person said. The various possibilities, I suppose, and that flash through his mind. Is this a trick? Is this a fact? And he knows that there's an immediate decision needed. So he asks a question. At this point, I've just made a wee note here that the possibilities, the way he thinks about it, the possibilities flash through Paul's mind, is just, again, mindful of that part of the epigraph. I suppose in terms of how much is the prophet shaping the future to fit the prophecy, this kind of thing. So why should you welcome fugitives? He asked. So he asked the question. He demanded. And it's a good question, I suppose. Rather than making any particular statement, he's getting more information. The response, I think, is pretty positive. A child who thinks like a man and speaks like a man, the tall man said. Well, now, to answer your question, my young Wally, I am one who does not pay the fee, the water tribute to the Harkonnens. That is why I might welcome a fugitive. So here we go. Again, we're starting to get the language here. Let's see. Young Wally, we're told Wally, I believe, in the terminology of the Imperium. Let's have a wee look. Is an untried Fremen youth. I've got a wee note here that in Arabic, it's the singular of Aulia, which is a plural for an ally, or an ally of God, or a saint. There we go. That's I got that information off Kaladin Bahildon's website on Arabic terms within Dune. So I'm one who does not pay the fee, and a fee, again, let me just quickly check. Not sure if it's in here. It is. The water tribute. Chief species of tax on Arrakis. Odd way of putting it. I have here that it's a term for land revenue from agriculture is a fee. So there we go. A couple of these terms from this man that are a bit unusual, but they're explained. Basically, the fee is the water tribute to the Harkonnens. That's why I might welcome a fugitive. So Paul's thoughts here at this point are that, he knows who we are. Okay. There's concealment in his voice. He's hiding something. And of course, here we go. So now we finally get the introduction. This is Stilgar. Of course, for those of us who are familiar with the book, we know Stilgar. And if not, time to meet him properly, I suppose. We've already met him once. Back in the Atreides, I suppose, on our king, whenever they're the exchange of bodies, I suppose, with Duncan Idaho and the Fremen that has died, where Paul meets him with his father, and the spitting scene, I suppose. So I am Stilgar the Fremen. Does that speed your tongue? Does that give you anything to add? So Paul's thoughts are, let's see. It's the same voice Paul thought, and he remembered the council with this man seeking the body of a friend slain by the Harkonnens. I should have just read that bit out rather than trying to remember, shouldn't I? So I know you, Stilgar, Paul said. I was with my father in council when you came for the water of your friend. You took away with you my father's man, Duncan Idaho, an exchange of friends. So this is, I suppose, a good bit of banter, if you like, from Paul. He's reminding Stilgar of I suppose a mutual exchange, the beginning possibly of an alliance with him and his father. And he raises the name. He name drops Duncan Idaho, I suppose, who at this point, of course, we know is dead. And I suppose the response isn't possibly what Paul might be looking for. And Idaho abandoned us to return to his duke, Stilgar said. And I'm just kind of put here in the text. So from Jessica's point of view, we shift over and she hears shading of disgust in his voice. And she holds herself prepared for attack. So presenting Duncan Idaho here in terms of it seems that the Fremen aren't impressed with him heading off to help the Atreides, I suppose. That they see him as that he's abandoned them. Stonk, English slang for both man bits and artillery strikes. Oh, hang on, I must back up a bit. Let me see. Oh, that's goodness, I've missed a bit of banter here. It's quite an engrossing wee chapter, this, I think. Always learning something new, says Bojack, in terms of, the Jacosa language. It's quite interesting. That says, I'm good. Currently trying out playing as House Carino in the new Dune Spice Wars update. Ah, excellent. How you all doing? Adept, I'm literally doing the same right now. Very well, thank you, says Bojack. The council I chose made my infantry useless, though. Got to start over. I haven't played this game. The last kind of Dune game that I've played, I've never played the board game, but wouldn't mind getting it at some point, I suppose. But the last game that I played was Emperor. Was it Battle for Dune, which kind of like a Command and Conquer type game. It was pretty good. I quite liked it. Keep buying Chome shares, wondering if that'll be how I win this one. Can't believe they added stonks. Stonks equals dumb internet slang for stocks. I did. I like the look of the new UI. Stonk, English slang for both man bits and artillery strikes. It's a 4-time strategy game using Dune skins. Right, gotcha. Excellent, sounds fun. Yeah. I still have a copy of Emperor Battle for Dune somewhere on the computer. I must get it installed sometime. I quite liked it. I like games like that. Let's see, where do we get to? So basically, yes, the name drop of Duncan Idaho has really not worked. Jessica hears this disgust in the voice and prepares herself for attack. So the voice from the rocks above them called, "We waste time here still." This is the Duke's son, Stilgar Bart. He's certainly the one Leia told us to seek. So we know about this message that Leia sent by Distrans. But a child still. And again, the Duke, this is Stilgar, the Duke was a man, and this lad used a thumper. That was a brave crossing he made in the path of Shai Hulud. Let's see, where are we? Have we looked at Shai Hulud yet at all? 15. Yet. Shai, Arabic Shai is a thing. Hulud can be eternal or eternity. I think let's just have a wee quick look at the terminology of the Imperium. And we're told that Shai Hulud is the sandworm of Arrakis, the old man of the desert, old father eternity, and grandfather of the desert. Significantly, this name, when referred to in a certain tone or written with capital letters, designates the earth deity of Fremen hearth superstitions. Sandworms grow to enormous size. Specimens longer than 400 meters have been seen in the deep desert and live to great age unless slain by one of their fellows or drowned in water, which is poisonous to them. Most of the sand on Arrakis is credited to sandworm action. See Little Maker. Excuse me. So there we go. And it occurred to me there when we were looking at the previous chapter And I didn't think I had my head on properly the last time. But what was it? The poem that we were looking at, The Old Man's Hymn. And we were kind of discussing that in terms of who's the old man is, and is it Lead, is it Pardo, this kind of thing. And it occurred to me then that the old man is possibly the worm, because it's the old man of the desert, isn't it? And that also got me thinking a wee bit about it, because I suppose if you take the idea of Dune, if you take what I suppose if you invert sand to sea, if you like, a bit like from the dragon in the seas, I always say, no pun intended, it's a bit of a dry run for Dune. But it made me think of the old man of the sea. In that case, in terms of if Shai Hulud is the old man of the desert, if we could put it into a sort of water environment, it would be the old man of the sea, and that's Proteus. Old man of the sea is Helios Geron, isn't it? Anyway, I don't know. I was just having a wee sort of wandering think about that, about the poem from the previous chapter, and sort of evaluating it in terms of who's the old man, the old man's hymn, as we're told. So the old man of the desert. So there's our Shai Hulud, thing eternal, if you like. The Arabic word Shai means thing, and the word Hulud means eternal or eternity. So we're getting these little phrases within. I suppose at this point in the book, I'm trying to remember sometimes if we've discussed certain terms before. But there you go, the worm Shai Hulud. Excuse me. Goodness, I need to drink more when I do this. Take more fluids in, folks. Now, let's see, where were we? So yeah, this exchange about we're wasting time with these people. This is the Duke's son, but he's a kid, basically. And then we're told the Duke was a man and this lad used the thumper. That was a brave crossing he made in the path of Shai Hulud. And this is very interesting, this bit, folks, I think. And within what he says, I suppose, and Jessica heard him excluding her from his thoughts. Had he already passed sentence? Now, of course, we have a kind of a bit of foresight in this, I suppose, foreknowledge, because we got to see a bit of Leat Kynes' thoughts about whether the Fremen they certainly would accept the boy, but would they accept the mother? Who knows? This kind of thing. And the idea of that, that threat becomes quite real here. And it's very interesting that the way I think that's presented. Heard him excluding her from his thoughts. The Duke was a man, and this lad used the thumper. That was a brave crossing he made in the path of Shai Hulud. If you want to know what we're talking about here, I think this is quite interesting. Does anybody know? I suppose, what do you call him? Is it Raymond Smullian? The logician and mathematician and musician. He does these logic problems, and I use some of them to teach my kids. In particular, I suppose I use some of them to teach them to read the question very carefully. And it kind of there's one of these kind of problems, if you like. One of these questions is something like how would it go? I suppose it'd be like I suppose the question's asking about I suppose it goes basically like this: a big person and a little person are sitting in the log, are sitting on a log, and the big person, the little person is the son of the big person, but the big person is not their father. Who are they? Does anybody know this one? Uh, woof woof, Stilgar barked. Yes, indeed. Classic Frank Herbert. Popcorn. Does anybody know this? I suppose the whole point about it is that the answer is so there's two people sitting on a log. The little person and a big person. The little person is the son of the big person, but the big person is not their father. So who are they? Judge Smells from the movie Caddyshack. Ah, excellent. The answer is it's their mother. Whenever you ask this question of people, there's another version of it, by the way, about a doctor who operates. The person and their father's killed in the accident. The doctor says, "I can't operate on this person because they're my son." The whole point is that the questions use nothing but male terms, um, and so they tend to direct your answers to male answers rather than the obvious. It must be the mother, if you see what I mean. And what he says here is exactly like that. If we pay attention to that, what he says just before Jessica realizes that she's being basically excluded from the conversation. The Duke, male, that's was a man. Yes, he was. And this lad, yeah, use the thumper. Okay, no mention of her at all. That was a brave crossing. It was indeed that he made. Oh, okay, but not her. In the path of Shai Hulud, if you see what I mean. So that's why her Jessica's going. She heard him excluding her from his thoughts. Had he already passed sentence? So this is looking like they're going to get rid of her, and he's already, just to make it easier for him, he's not mentioning her in any way in this conversation. Um, had he already passed sentence? The other voice above them protests, "We haven't time for the test." And of course, Stilgar is saying, "Yet he could be the Lisa and Al-Gib," this voice from the outer world that we've heard Paul describe, being described as before. And of course, Jessica picks up on this. Her thoughts. He's looking for an omen. Again, the voice above pushing the matter, but the woman, and Jessica readied herself anew. There had been death in that voice. Yes, the woman and her water, Stilgar said. You know the law, religious law, one who cannot live with the desert. So we're getting, again, a little bit more of the one who cannot live with the desert what? Not quite sure, but this is quite interesting. And Stilgar's response is, "Be quiet. Times change." And this is he's giving an order, and he's being pragmatic. The other voice ignores his order, basically, doesn't he? Of course, we'll know that this is Jamis in a second, and Jamis is going to be a very interesting character here too. Excuse me. Though we'll not see too much of him here, but we're sort of setting it. I think Herbert's setting his character up nicely at this point as a belligerent. Let's see. So, "Be quiet," Stilgar said. "Times change. Did Liet command this?" asked the voice from the rocks, not being quiet. "You heard the voice of the Kilago, Jamis," Stilgar said. "Why do you press me?" And I get the sense he's getting quite annoyed there. Now, once again, we get the use of language here becomes revealing to Jessica, and she focuses on this word Kilago. The clue of the tongue opened wide avenues of understanding. This was the language of Ilm and Fiq, and Kilago meant bat, a small flying mammal, voice of the Kilago. They had received a distrans message to seek Paul and herself. So, of course, we know this already from the previous chapter. Let me just back up. Of course, so you heard the voice of the Kilago, Jamis. So we have a name. This is Jamis, this other voice now. Jamis and Stilgar as a pair, if you like. And I've just made a wee note here. A Kilago is any. Well, let me just check that. Let's go to the terminology of the Imperium. Is it there at all by the looks of it? Let me see. It is. Any modified chiroptera of Arrakis adopted to carry distrans messages is what it says in the terminology of the Imperium. I've written down that we have, let me see if I'm pronouncing this correctly, I hope so. Murcielago is Spanish for bat, and I believe means blind mouse. We have the word ciego, meaning blind. Let me just see. And chiroptera or bats, by the way. And from the word, I suppose, kir, which means hand, and teron, which means wing. So we're talking about bats here. Of course, we're already told that. That's the clue of the tongue that opens wide areas of understanding. This is the language of ilm and fiqh. Kalago meant bat, small flying animal. So ilm, I understand in Arabic, means science, and fiqh is an Islamic term for understanding. So the language of the Fremen, I suppose, as it's revealed to Jessica, and as she interprets it, I suppose, reveals things to us, the reader, and we start to get a bit more of a sense of this place. We've seen, I suppose, we understand what these distrans things and stuff like this, these little bats that we've seen about the place, etc. So, and again, it gives us a little bit of a sense of, another species on the planet, a little bit of a sense of the world of the Fremen. But yeah. So, and yeah, of course, she puts it together. It tells her, basically that's enough to say that these guys have received a message about, Paul and herself. No. I but remind you of your duties, friend Stilgar, says Jamis, the voice above them. And it's quite passive aggressive, isn't it? It's quite obsequious. It's a bit, and we get a rebuke, I think, here. My duty, and here we go. We're going to learn quite a bit about, I suppose, the leader of the Fremen here, the Stilgar. My duty is to the strength of the tribe. That is my only duty. I need no one to remind me of it. That's quite authoritative there. This child man interests me. He is full-fleshed. He has lived on much water. He's lived away from the father's son. He has not the eyes of Ibad. He does not speak or act like a weakling of the Pans, nor did his father. How can this be? And I've put there, I think that's a subtle rebuke towards Jamis. Does not speak or act like a weakling of the Pans. And again, I've made a wee note the word ibad, but I think it's the Arabic plural for slave, but can also mean mankind, humanity, people, servants, etc. Has a lot of meanings. That's how we look. So, of course, we know the eyes of Ibad are the characteristic effect of a diet high in melange, wherein the whites and pupils of the eyes turn a deep blue, indicative of deep melange addiction. Right. Let's see. So, yeah, quite a wee speech from Stilgar there. And this Jamis still goes at him, I suppose. Can't stay here all night arguing. If a patrol, and he's cut off. I will not tell you again, Jamis, to be quiet. And the man stays silent. Good effect. Bit of tension within the Fremen ranks, basically, isn't there? There's this guy seems to be poking at Stilgar's authority. As I said, we're laying the groundwork for Jamis He's going to be somebody that we can compare Paul to. And I suppose if we've seen the film, we have a bit of a different viewpoint of Jamis. But Jamis is meant to represent belligerence and male aggression, unchecked male aggression. We'll get a few. I suppose that's being set up quite a bit by Herbert in this chapter. We'll certainly sort of see what Jessica thinks of him later on, once the initial encounter's over. But that's hopefully him sort of put in his place for now by Stilgar. And he stays quiet. He moves, leaps over a defile, and heads down to the basin floor to the left. Now, let's see, where are we? The voice of the Kalago suggested there be value to us in saving you two, Stilgar said. I can see possibility in this strong boy man. He is young and can learn, but what of yourself, woman? He stared at Jessica. So again, Jessica's, these Bene Gesserit skills are still working here. I have his voice and pattern registered now. So she's got him, Jessica thought. I could control him with a word, but he's a strong man, worth much more to us unblunted and with full freedom of action. We shall see. So it's a pretty ballsy statement, isn't it? I've got you. Just by listening to this man, I can now utterly control you, no problem. And it's quite wow. But again, we have this. We sort of have this previously with her, don't we? With Leto, that she could make him do things, but then it wouldn't. It's not just wouldn't be right, I suppose. So she's going to proceed without the use of this power, I suppose. Preferring to sort of make this man come round to her thinking, if you like. I am the mother of this boy, Jessica said. In part, his strength, which you admire, is the product of my training. So she's going to start selling herself, basically, in terms of, you should, her worth, if you like, her value to the tribe, if you like. Let's just catch up a wee bit. Changes. Where are we? Stilgar reveals a lot, and as Cynthia says, Stilgar reveals a lot in his verbal exchange. Why isn't he more circumspect, especially when he identifies Paul? Or does his deliberate dismissal of Jessica distract him? Or maybe it's bravado. Frankly, he thinks she's too old to train. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's I think it's one of those things that as much as I think there is a threat to Jessica, you get the sense that there's a bit of humor in Stilgar's voice. I think he is going to give her. I think he would give her an opportunity to save herself, to demonstrate some worth rather than just kill her. I think Jamis is far too eager to kill anybody, pretty much. But again, the idea that perhaps there's a lot in his verbal exchange. Why isn't he more circumspect? Especially when he identifies Paul. I don't know. I think I suppose the main thing about this chapter, Cynthia, is we'll be told this a wee bit, I suppose, but it's a beginning in a way, and it's a very delicate time, if you see what I mean. And I think there's a amount of caution on both sides here. Perhaps he assumes she's a water-soft, spoiled noblewoman, quite possibly. One of the only changes I liked in the movie, says Bojack, was seeing the other path not taken where Jamis and Paul were friends. Yeah, I suppose that the way they did it was interesting, I suppose. And I think that there was stuff that was overlaid onto things that Jamis said. That I'm going to have a look at it again, but I thought that they were either words of Liet or else words of Pardo, the latest movie. I mean, yeah, I figured that one. Bojack, yeah. Travis Price says, hey there from Maryland. Hi, Travis. Welcome all the way from Maryland. Excellent. Welcome to the station. Happy to join the conversation. Thanks, Doc. Thank you very much, Travis, for joining us. And Bojack saying, hey, Travis. And there's Matt S. saying, hi, Doc. Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining us. Howdy, Travis and Matt. Hey, Bojack. Jamis had anger issues, yes. Surprised he made it as long as he did without being duelled by another Fremen. I think what is interesting, I suppose, is whenever we get there, is that if it seems that this has probably been going on for some time outside of this situation, and that Jamis is reaching a point where I think he's going to challenge. He'll be challenging Stilgar eventually, whether Paul and Jessica were there or not. I think, Adept Sharon says the quote you mean Jamis says in the vision is a Mentat saying from very early in the book. Excuse me. Thanks, Sharon. Keep saying Sharon. Again, it's I haven't gone near the film actually in a long time, so I'm not remembering it. That's supposed to have a look at it again. But I thought it might not have been there, but I thought I picked up some stuff of possibly Pardo's. But I'm not too sure if it was stuff from maybe the appendix or stuff from the chapter of Late Kynes' death, this previous chapter there. Still hard to say how literally we are supposed to take which visions in the movie. That vision has like a strong yellow filter, which is not the case for all visions. Must pay attention to the visions, I suppose, a bit more. I think some of them are possible futures, aren't they? That fade, if you like. They're I suppose we're going to get. I suppose the culmination, really, of one of Paul's visions is, of course, of Chani, and he's going to meet her shortly here. But it's not. It turns out not to be the way he foresaw. Isn't that correct? It's different. It's all visions possible from the valley floor. Yeah, I have got to the point where I think I'm definitely going to have to watch it again. It's been a while actually. Probably find it easier to watch again actually, having left it alone for a bit. But I thought about at some point picking it apart and having a really good detailed look at the film. Give myself more work to do. Let's see. Where did I get to? Yeah, the power of Jessica just within the possibilities of what she could do here. I've made a note here, by the way. If she can control him with a word, does that extend to all the men, all the people who can hear her within this basin? Would she be able to control all of them? How lethal would Jessica be in this situation against what we'll find out is 40 Fremen? I'm very curious. We don't find out, unfortunately, but I'd be quite curious to see how lethal she would be. So, and she's being tactical here. I'm the mother of the boy. In part, the strength that you admire is a product of my training. So strength's important to these people. 24, there we are. And of course, Stilgar's reply here, the strength of a woman can be boundless. Certain it is in a reverend mother. Are you a reverend mother? And again, Jessica's thoughts here, quite interesting, because what we're just told is for a moment that she puts aside the implications of the question. And implication that I suppose that they would be looking for a reverend mother, possibly that's a position that the Fremen understand. And we're told that she answers truthfully and says no. So she's staying honest here. Are you trained in the ways of the desert? Again, so he's trying to give her something here. Again, no. And again, she's being honest. But many consider my training valuable. So Stilgar's response again here is we make our own judgments on value. value judgments. Quite important in Dune. Every man has the right to his own judgments, she said. And we have a dialogue going here between the two. And again, possibly that she is still hopeful of a I suppose non-violent outcome with Stilgar. It is well that you see reason, Stilgar said, and again that sounds quite hopeful, doesn't it, at this point? But we cannot dally here to test you, woman. Do you understand? We'd not want your shade to plague us. I will take the boy man your son, and he shall have my countenance, sanctuary in my tribe. But for you, woman, you understand there is nothing personal in this. It is the rule, istisla, in the general interest. Is that not enough? Of course, Paul takes a step forward. What are you talking about? So, basically, it pretty much seems that Stilgar at this point has decided to kill Jessica, and he's trying to placate her to because they're having a reasonable conversation at this point. I've just written that this is him prepping for murder and trying to sort of solve himself a little bit of it. Well, it's good that you see reason, because we can't hang around here to test you, to make sure that you can do something useful. Do you understand? We don't want your shade to plague us. So, shade is from the Greek, by the way, skia. The Latin would be umbra. Latin would be umbra, wouldn't it? Is a spirit or ghost of a dead person. And I think in Italian it's umbra. You find them in all sorts of places, different mythologies, etc. So we don't want your ghost to haunt us. If we kill you, don't be cursing us and condemning us. Understand that it's for the greater good, if you like. That's what they're telling her here. That they'll take the boy man, your son, and give him safety and countenance. And of course, we're told that this is Istisla, which is in the general interest. Sorry. So Istisla is the general welfare. And I've written land reclamation reform. With an Istisla is to deem proper and is related to the term maslaha, which is in the public interest. There we go. So it's for the greater good, if you like, this kind of thing. And it's a bit excessive, isn't it? We'll have to kill you, take your water. But he's saying, we'll save your son, we'll look after him. Is that enough to placate your ghost in terms of our murdering you? If you see what I mean. Dear, oh dear. It is possible Jessica could take out a Sardaukar squad. Yeah, it's fact, it's I don't know what the skills that are presented here. If the confidence of the character that I can do this to this guy, no bother. And it's just with a word, if it's a question of sound, I suppose. I don't know. It just made, what can she do? It's very, and this is a standoff, really, if you think about it. This part of the chapter, it's about to be. It's about to become a standoff, and it's basically one Bene Gesserit woman versus an entire troop of Fremen, basically, and she's got their match, basically. She'll here we go, I suppose. So at this point, Paul half steps forward to distraction. What are you talking about? And we're told that Stilgar flicked a gaze across Paul, but kept his attention on Jessica. And I've put, is it enough to keep his attention there? Unless trained from childhood to live here, you could bring destruction on our entire tribe. It is the law, and we cannot carry useless. And that's it. Jessica acts at this point. Here we go. Jessica versus Stilgar. It's not much of a fight, is it? Her motion becomes slumping. Let's just read this. I think it's quite good. Jessica's motion started as a slumping, deceptive faint to the ground. It was the obvious thing for a weak outworlder to do, and the obvious slows an opponent's reactions. It takes an instant to interpret a known thing when that thing is exposed as something unknown. She shifted as she saw his right shoulder drop to bring a weapon within the folds of his robe to bear on her new position. A turn, a slash of her arm, a whirling of mingled robes, and she was against the rocks with the man helpless in front of her. Done. It's just nifty, isn't it? And within that she has feints creates deception. And the one point that I've put down here, when the obvious thing is she's thinking for a weak outworlder to do, is that the Fremen have underestimated her badly here. So yeah, and I just put damn right next to that. Okay, wow. And we, Stilgar helpless in front of her, helpless, can't do anything. And we're told at his mother's first movement, Paul backs up 2 steps, and as she attacked, he dove for the shadows. So his strategy is hide here. We're told a bearded man rose up in his path, half crouched, lunging forward with a weapon in one hand. So that's an attack. Paul took the man beneath the sternum with a straight hand jab, sidestepped and chopped the base of his neck, relieving him of the weapon as he fell. So just basically twats him and takes his gun. And of course, we'll find out, of course, that this is Jamis again, isn't it? Ready, willing, and able, and quick with the violence, I think. So Paul evades. And he's into the shadows, scrambling upward among the rocks, the weapon tucked into his waist sash. He had recognized it in spite of its unfamiliar shape, a projectile weapon, and that said many things about this place. Another clue that shields were not used here. And we get us thinking, they will concentrate on my mother and that Stilgar fellow. How polite. She can handle him. No bother. I must get to a safe vantage point where I can threaten them and give her time to escape. So, there's a bit of gunfire. There's a chorus of sharp spring clicks from the basin. And we're told projectiles wind off the rocks around him. One of them flicked his robe, a near miss. He squeezed around a corner in the rocks, found himself in a narrow vertical crack, and began inching upward, his back against one side, his feet against the other, slowly as silently as he could. And we're told the roar of Stilgar's voice echoed up to him. Get back, you worm-headed lice. She'll break my neck if you come near. So I've just written here that Stilgar has understanding of his situation. And I've also put down that the Fremen kind of look kind of stupid here at this point. A voice out of the basin said, the boy got away still. What are we? And of course he got away. You sand-brained... And that's pain. Easy woman. So his conversation is controlled by Jessica here. Enough of the banter, I suppose. Tell them to stop hunting my son, she said. Hello. They've stopped, woman. He got away as you intended him to. Great gods below, why didn't you say you were a weirding woman and a fighter? So here we go. 2 things that Jessica may have that could be of worth to something to the Fremen. She's a weirding woman and a fighter. I've also just made a wee note that the way Stilgar swears a fair bit in this chapter is quite interesting. And the great gods, great gods, if you can do this to the strongest of us, etc. Great gods below. So I just put the gods are plural here. And they're below, not above. Pardon me. So Jessica says, tell your men to fall back into the basin where I can see them, and you better believe that I know how many of them there are. And Jessica's thoughts, and this is what we were talking about a wee bit earlier. I suppose this really is the proper meeting of House Atreides and the Fremen, or what's left of House Atreides. And this is the delicate moment. And now she thought, this is the delicate moment, but if this man is as sharp-minded as I think him, we have a chance. So again, hope. She's hopeful. And again, we switch to Paul's point of view. Meanwhile, let's see, Paul inched his way upward, found a narrow ledge on which he could rest, and looked down into the basin. Stilgar's voice came up to him. And if I refuse, how can you... and again, pain for Stilgar from Jessica. And it says it's quite an angry response, doesn't it? Leave me be, woman. We mean no harm to you now. Great gods, if you can do this to the strongest of us, me, you're worth 10 times your weight in water. And again, if we understand what water is worth on this planet, her value is in terms of water here. Now, excuse me. I've missed the number here. Bear with me a wee second. Now for the test of reason. That's what I'm looking for. Now the test of reason, Jessica thought. She said, you ask after the Lisan al-Gaib. So this is the beginning of, I suppose, the manipulation of the Fremen here by Jessica. She's got this guy by the throat pretty much. You ask after the Lisan al-Gaib, the voice from the outer world. Stilgar says, well, you could be the folk of the legend, he said, but I'll believe that when it's been tested. All I know now is that you came here with that stupid Duke who... bit more pain for Stilgar. And a woman. I care not if you kill me. He was honourable and brave, but it was stupid to put himself in the way of the Harkonnen fist. And we have just silence. Nice little bit of quiet. The stupid Duke is how Stilgar sees Leto. Stupid. He's honourable, he's brave, stupid to put himself in the way of the Harkonnen fist. And it's a pretty good assessment, I think. Silence from Jessica. That's not very nice. And she caused him pain the first time. It also shows that Stilgar's a bit, as much as he's in this situation, he's pretty fearless, isn't he? And his to the point, his fearlessness includes being honest. If you see what I mean, his honesty is I think an obvious trait here. Even while being, having pain inflicted upon him, he says what he thinks. Which I think is really, really important. I think it's a very good quality. And of course, Stilgar is a great character. I'm a big fan of Stilgar. Really interesting character. But very much so when we get to Dune Messiah. I think he really, really comes into his own actually in that book. So presently, Jessica said he had no choice. I've written no, he did, but we will not argue it. Now, that man of yours behind the bush, tell him to stop trying to bring a weapon to bear on me, or I'll rid the universe of you and take him next. So another overt threat of violence, and she is picking these people out, isn't she? Her abilities to spot what's going on, to identify movement around her, and she has control here. And control, I think, is what she's seeking. Some measure of control, but also safety. Pardon me. Let's have a wee back up here. Do. Interesting. I'm gonna take out. Interesting to compare the meeting of Jessica and Stilgar with her meeting the shadowed Mapes. Would Mapes's report have reached Stilgar? Seemingly not, based on what Stilgar says here. Oh, yeah, we are about to get to that. I got the sense that they had got a report from Mapes. I'll have to have a look at that something when we get there. But yeah, absolutely. I suppose, and the other thing about, in terms of how we're looking at these characters, we've talked about the importance of Mapes. I think Mapes is a really important character. I love Mapes. Um, Genuinely, I think it's a great character. Um, she's one of the characters that test the prophecy, if you like. And Jamis is going to be this other one here. Not in this chapter, but ultimately. So would I think we'll have to have a wee look. It must be coming up shortly, isn't it? Let me see. You could be the folk of the legend, he said. Oh, here, hang on. I was reading. I'll finish reading the comments before I go on. Sorry. Pardon me. But maybe Stilgar has heard Mapes' report and is being discreet after all. Also, I should have kept reading, Cynthia, shouldn't I? Sorry. Adept Carol says, oh, I was wondering about that. Is Mapes basically from a significantly different group of Fremen, maybe? She's a Fremen at large, wandering and exploring. Regarding Mapes, I don't know her origin, but she knew of Duncan and Duncan served with Stilgar, so there's some sort of link. I got the sense that Mapes was an old Fremen. Pardon me, who'd lived in in sieges, etc., and who'd been placed in the city. If you get my sense that she was she was an agent, that's always what I got. Yeah, that there's and is very actively going about orders, etc., for the Fremen. I think, yeah, Mapes is quite interesting. And sadly, we don't get to see too much of her. But I got the sense that Mapes was a kind of a Fremen spy. If you see what I mean. Hmm. But yeah, she's mentioned here. I suppose, as I said, we'll get to it in a wee minute or two. I think we can check what it says. So you there, Stilgar roared, do as she says. But still, do as she says, you worm-faced, crawling, sand-brained piece of lizard turd. Do it, or I'll help her dismember you. Can't you see the worth of this woman? So here we go. That's the. I suppose our tone has changed a wee bit. So this woman is yeah valuable, and can't you see it? And again, I suppose the Fremen here are sort of, but still, this kind of thing. They do. It's clear that they do look to Stilgar in terms of what to do. Hmm. Do she? Yeah, that's a good wee bit of an insult there, I think. Um, the man at the bush straightened from his partial concealment and lowered his weapon. It's almost like it's almost like he's telling off naughty children. I think it's quite funny. So Jessica's in charge here, isn't she? Now, explain clearly to your people what it is you wish of me. I want no young hothead to make a foolish mistake. And I think that's a wee bit of that's a bit of foreshadowing there, I think, because that's exactly what's going to happen. A young hothead is going to make a foolish mistake. So Stilgar's response is this: when we slip into the villages and towns, we must mask our origin, blend with the Pan and Graben folk. Stilgar said, we carry no weapons, for the crysknife is sacred. But you, woman, you have the weirding ability of battle. We'd only heard of it and many doubted, but one cannot doubt what he sees with his own eyes. You mastered an armed Fremen. This is a weapon no search could expose. So there's the value. And there's a stirring in the basin as Stilgar's words sank home. So whenever the Fremen sort of move amongst the various villages and towns of, I suppose, the more civilized Fremen people, if you like, the pan and grabbing folk, they don't take their weapons with them. In case they're captured, it said the weapons are sacred, so they go unarmed basically. And the weirding way seems is pretty much a kind of martial art. And if they could learn this, then they could enter without their knives. And if they could do this, then they would be armed. It's a weapon no search could expose. Very useful to them. A set of skills that is very useful to them. And the stirring in the basin, as Stilgar's words sink home, would seem to make sense. So a bit of a Q&A here. And if I agreed to teach you the weirding way, countenance for you and your son, how can we be sure of truth of your? How can we be sure of the truth of your promise? The truth in your promise. So this is an interesting one here, and this is, we can tell that this is pretty much taken as an insult, I think here. Jessica picks it up through the tone of his voice. Stilgar's voice lost some of its subtle undertone of reasoning, took on an edge of bitterness. So out here, women, we carry no paper for contracts. We make no evening promises to be broken at dawn. When a man says a thing, that's the contract. As leader of my people, I've put them in bond to my word. Teach us this weirding way, and you have sanctuary with us as long as you wish. Your water shall mingle with our water. And again, another little bit of Fremen culture there, whatever that means. Your water is going to mingle with our water. Basically telling our words are bond. We do what we say, pretty much. Jessica being a little bit, I suppose, probing here. Can you speak for all Fremen? Stilgar says, in time, maybe. But for now, only Liet speaks for all Fremen. Of course, we have a bit of dramatic irony there. We know that, of course, Liet is dead now. So here's what he offers. Here I promise only secrecy. My people will not speak of you to any other Sietch. The Harkonnens have returned to Dune in force, and your Duke is dead. It is said that you two died in a mother storm. The hunter does not seek dead game. So that's a bit of information that's the Harkonnens are not hunting them anymore because they assume that they're dead. And of course, there's safety in that, is what Jessica thinks. But these people have good communications, and it's possible that a message could be sent. So she hasn't got trust here. And she vocalizes this, I suppose. I presume there's a reward for us. And Stilgar, again, says Stilgar remains silent, and she could almost see the thoughts turning over in his head, sensing the shifts of his muscles beneath her hands. She's still got full control of him, and it's just, yeah, he's not happy again either. Again, it's and again, this is the way he presents it. Presently, he said, I will say it once more. I've given the tribe's word bond. My people know your worth to us. Now, what could the Harkonnens give us? Our freedom? Ha! No, you are the Taqwa, that which buys us more than all the spice in the Harkonnen coffers. So, Taqwa, in the terminology of the Imperium. Let's see, where are we? Taqwa, literally, it says the price of freedom, something of great value, that which a deity demands of a mortal, and the fear provoked by the demand. Taqwa in Arabic and Islam refers to piety. I have made a note. Something of great value which a deity demands of a mortal. Well, that would be piety, I believe. That's the way that works. The price of freedom. You're the price that we pay to achieve freedom. This thing of great value is this set of skills. So Jessica agrees to teach them her way of battle, doesn't she? Let's see. Then I shall teach you my way of battle, Jessica said, and she sensed the unconscious ritual intensity of her own words. Now you will release me, says Stilgar. And again, you get that sense with her next phrase as well, also being a bit ritualistic. So be it. Instead of okay, that kind of thing. Then I shall teach you my way of battle. Yeah, so it's working the myth, isn't it? I think. And she releases her hold on him, steps aside in full view of the band in the basin. And this is this misprint I was going to tell you about, folks. It says in my copy, I'm on page 303 of this one. I think this is quite a well-known misprint in Dune. This is the test mashed. It says here, she thought, but Paul must know about them even if I die for his knowledge. Now, this isn't the test mashed at all. And it should be the test mashad, I believe. And if we go to the terminology of the Imperium, you'll find it's the test mashad, not the test mashed, which doesn't really make any sense, does it? Any test, we're told, in which honor, defined as a spiritual standing, is at stake. So there we go. I don't know if you guys have got your test mashed, but it should be the test mashad, a test where honor is at stake. Yet another misprint. I think that's quite a well-known misprint in Dune. Let's just catch up with your comments. Let's see where we get to. I was wondering about his mates basically from a significantly different group of Fremen, maybe. It's possible. Fremen at large, wandering and exploring. Don't know large about she knew. Oh, sorry, I've read this stuff before. That top tier insult. Has that line made it into an adaptation yet? What's the top? Sorry, that top tier insult. Has that line made it into an adaptation yet? I'm not too sure, Carol. Oh dear, oh dear. So yeah, test Mashad. There we go. Test what honors at stake. Right, let's see where we're at. What is Paul's point of view? Yes. In the waiting silence, Paul inched forward to get a better view of where his mother stood, and as he moved, he heard heavy breathing, suddenly stilled above him in the vertical crack of the rock, and sensed a faint shadow there outlined against the stars. Mysterious. And we're told Stilgar's voice came up from the basin. You up there, stop hunting the boy. He'll come down presently. There's our Holly. And the voice, interesting, the voice of a young boy or girl, we're unsure, sounded from the darkness above Paul. But still, he can't be far from. So again, a bit more of this, but still. I think it's quite funny. I said, leave him be, Chani, you spawn of a lizard. Another bit of, he likes swearing, does our Stilgar, doesn't he? There came a whispered imprecation from above Paul in a low voice. Call me spawn of a lizard. But the shadow pulled back out of view. That's a great word, by the way. I don't know if anybody knows this word. There came a whispered imprecation. It's not a word you hear very often. It's, how would you put it? I've written a couple of wee things down, but how would you put it? Whispering. Yeah, how would you put it? I suppose it's like a spoken curse or something like that. Whispered imprecation. That's great. It comes from the word imprecare, which is to invoke evil. I think it's just a good word. There you go. So, and I think this is Chani, of course. We're meeting Chani for the first time. This is the person that's taken up position above Paul. Holly, chill out. Go on, love. Sit down. Sorry, Holly's mucking about here on the sofa. Yeah, the first time we meet Chani and she's getting insulted by Stilgar. Of course, we don't know his. You spawn of a lizard and spawn of a lizard. And it's quite funny. I think it's don't you call me, that kind of thing. Very endearing, I suppose. Quite human. It's good writing, I think. And of course, the way she's framed against the stars, that's going to be there's a little bit of romance and mysticism going on here, I think. Paul returns his attention to the basin, picking out the grey shadowed movement of Stilgar beside his mother. Come in, all of you, Stilgar called. He turned to Jessica. And now I'll ask you how we may be certain that you'll fulfill your half of our bargain. You're the ones lived with papers and empty contracts and such as. So Jessica's response here is, again, she's working the room, if you like. We of the Bene Gesserit don't break our vows any more than you do. There's a protracted silence, followed by multiple hisses, and then we get this, a Bene Gesserit witch. And I've just put down, are they in awe? Is this a program response, if you like? We just talk about always the word witch with the Bene Gesserit, how they're perceived as witches. And we've got to understand that, I'm sure we pretty all know this, that they want themselves to be viewed that way. So it's the right word to hear, Bene Gesserit witch. And it's suggestive of magic and sorcery and all of this kind of thing, isn't it? Witchcraft. So Paul brought his captured weapon from his sash, trained it on the dark figure of Stilgar, but the man and his companions remained immobile, staring at Jessica. It is the legend, someone said. Oh, and here's this point we were talking about. It was said that the Shadowed Mapes gave this report on you. Stilgar said that she was a Bene Gesserit, basically. But a thing so important must be tested if you are the Bene Gesserit of the legend whose son will lead us to paradise. He shrugged. I think it's quite interesting. So there's that wee bit about Mapes. It was said that the Shadowed Mapes gave this report on you. So what was it we were asking earlier there? Was it Cynthia? Would Mapes' report have reached Stilgar? Seemingly not based on what Stilgar says here. Yes, it sounds like that's the case, Cynthia. It sounds like it sounds that Mapes has delivered her report, but it's not to Stilgar, and that he's received secondary knowledge of it. If you, the information in that report's been passed on to him, probably by Liet Kynes, I would imagine here. But the Mapes' report doesn't seem to have come directly to Stilgar, but he's aware of it. This report on you, it is the legend. What is he talking about at that point? The fact that she says that that she's either a Bene Gesserit or that they don't break their vows. But I imagine both. So it's the legend, and that must have Jessica going, yo-ho, Missionaria Protectiva. Here we go. It's all working. But of course, Stilgar says a thing so important must be tested. Again, we think about our epigraph at the start of this chapter. That's what it's about. Can we test prophecy and prescience, etc.? And we get a bit more, I suppose. And it's no mean thing, I suppose. If you are the Bene Gesserit of the legend, whose son will lead us to paradise, no less. And he shrugs. I thought I just put that's a nice wee bit of bathos, I think. And then, of course, followed by Jessica's sighed. He shrugged, she sighed, thinking, and here we go. So our Missionaria Protectiva even planted religious safety valves all through this hellhole. Ah, well, it'll help. And that's what it was meant to do. So, yeah, there's You can't just turn up and go, aha, I'm the Bene Gesserit of legend. I'm going to lead you all to paradise. You've got to prove it. And from the Bene, I suppose, from the Bene Gesserit's point of view, that would prevent imposters, etc., from doing such a thing, misusing their prophecies, etc. And it gives the, I suppose, the person being protected by the missionary or protectiva, situations to manipulate to prove their worth, and that how they fit into this set of myths, if you like. It'll help, and that's what it was meant to do. So she basically starts going with this. I thought she's a wee bit. My own personal opinion is I thought she was a wee bit too direct here, but she's looking for control, and it's been, I suppose, or an element of control. She survived this initial encounter where her life was under threat, but she is now looking to manipulate these people and insinuate herself within and her son into positions of power within the Fremen, and that's what she's about here. So she starts with this understanding that the person who's presented these myths was probably a Bene Gesserit. She presents that as a seeress, I suppose. So the seeress who brought you the legend, she gave it under the binding of Karama and Ijaz, the miracle and the inimitability of the prophecy. It's a hard one to say, isn't it? This I know. Do you wish to see a sign? Would you like me to give you a sign that I am the the Bene Gesserit mother of the one who will lead you to paradise? She's looking to sort of get in there quite quick, I think. It's suggestive of a bit of haste, maybe, but then it's probably also timely. You got to do this now. Has that line? I got you, Karen. Has that line made it into adaptation? Yeah, yeah. Yes, the test mashed. My book from '86 says, yeah. I think it's quite a common misprint, and one that's not been sort of corrected in a lot of editions. The edition I'm using has a whole. I have an older, a proper sort of decent copy that I don't write on, that I can refer to, I suppose, to check. But this one's full of all sorts of new misprints and mistakes, which is kind of curious as to how that happened. But yeah, I won't be buying the rest of the books in this series to get one set of covers of Dune. I might look into maybe trying to pick up an international set, maybe. But they don't seem to be very good, and I'm not sure this book's going to survive. And yeah, I think I'd have a look about at my Dune copies of Dune Messiah. I think I've worked with both of them before. I've got this one and this one, I suppose. But they're in pretty good condition. So I don't think I only really kind of needed to get another copy of Dune to work with because my old one had fallen to bits. But I've always wanted a set of one covers, if you know what I mean, for the 6 Dune books. I never had them. No, where are we? Yeah, do you wish to see a sign? Stilgar's nostrils flared in the moonlight. And, excuse me, we cannot tarry for the rites, he whispered. I was wondering, is that awe there with his nostrils flaring? Is it impatience? Is it fear? Or uncertainty? I wonder what. But we're not hanging around for the rights. And we get this moment of recall from Jessica here. She recalled a chart Kynes had shown her while arranging emergency escape routes. How long ago it seemed. There had been a place called Sietch Tabr, or Sietch Tabr, on the chart, and beside it the notation Stilgar. Perhaps when we get to Sietch Tabr, she said. The revelation shook him, and Jessica thought, if only he knew the tricks we use. She must have been good, that Bene Gesserit of the Missionaria Protectiva. These Fremen are beautifully prepared to believe in us. So she's using little snippets of information that she can recall, clicks, something puts two and two together. Sietch Tabr, that's where Stilgar lives. That's where they must be going. And this is an attempt at manipulation. And yeah, if only he knew. It's quite obvious. If only he knew the tricks we use. She must have been good, that Bene Gesserit of the Missionary Protective. These Fremen are beautifully prepared to believe in us, and therefore we can control them. Stilgar, we're told, shifted uneasily. We must go now. And she nodded, letting him know that they left with her permission. I really like that. Control. That you do so because I said so. It's okay. Basically, don't mess with me. And Stilgar's, yeah. So I don't know. As he said, he shifted uneasily. So there's an alliance, I suppose, here, but it's not starting off too honestly, if you like. That pretty much these people have been prepared by one of the Bene Gesserit to be manipulated, and that's what these two are going to do. And we're getting the evidence of it. This is how they go about their business. And I suppose the level of detail that the Bene Gesserit go into this kind of thing, the Missionary Protective, must be quite incredible. If you think about what they've gone about doing. And again, it just we've really seen a fair bit of Jessica's power. Without really seeing her, if you know what I mean, not an overt demonstration of power too much. But she's certainly the most powerful character in this chapter, and easily demonstrates so. Has Brian made a book for me? Oh, don't say that, Joseph. Anyone hear anything on the Sisterhood show? No, I haven't been paying much attention to things like that. I do get the sense that the Dune universe is getting milked quite badly. But was the last book called Sands of Dune, I believe? The Shadow of Dune. And I thought, well, Sands of Dune, that's just really... That was the one title I didn't think they would go for. The Sand of Dune, But yeah, Housekeepers of Dune. Well, Dippers of Dune, yeah. Dear, oh dear. Yeah, Sands of Dune is like a collection of stories of side characters. Coffee Sets of Dune would be a good one, I think. It's funny that way, I suppose whenever you get into a university, it must get very busy. Dear, oh dear. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Just it's a sad thing. I like stories to come to an end, and as much as you can enjoy stories in a universe and a mythos, etc., it is good to have an ending, sometimes, and just to move on to new things. I certainly think that the more and more you churn things out like that, the less, the quality always goes. I think, Fear the Walking Dune. Goodness gracious. Sequels, prequels, and sequels. Isn't it? It's just I'm thinking about this. It'd be nice to see some piece of science fiction out there that's just really original. That makes everybody go, "Oh, what's this?" Something that a game changer. How do we think about that? Let's see. So yeah, the manipulation goes on. In John's the Miracle, let's see. Shuko. Yeah, off we go. uh, yeah. Oh, letting him know. So he looked up at the cliff, almost directly at the rock ledge where Paul crouched. Sorry. You there, lad. You may come down now. He returned his attention to Jessica, spoke with an apologetic tone. Sorry, your son made an incredible amount of noise climbing. He has much to learn lest he endanger us all, but he's young, um, no doubt we have much to teach each other, Jessica said. Meanwhile, you'd best see to your companion out there. My noisy son was a bit rough in disarming him. So a little bit of cheek there. I put touche from Jessica. And Stilgar whirled where? And Jessica's beyond those bushes and points. So Stilgar sends two men scanning his own people, realizes that Jamis is missing. Even your cub knows the weirding way. So Jamis, who's been about earlier, is the person that's been clobbered by Paul. And of course, Jessica also points out that you'll notice that Paul hasn't stirred from up there as you ordered. So the two men come back supporting Jamis between who stumbled and gasped between them, we're told. Stilgar gave them a flicking glance, returned his attention to Jessica. The son will take only your orders, eh? Good. He knows discipline. So it's another quality that the Fremen admire, I suppose. We were talking about a few of them earlier: strength, caution, discipline. And of course, still in command here, Jessica says that Paul, you may come down now. And so Paul stands up and emerges into the moonlight, slips the weapon back into his sash, and turns and meets the other figure. Of course, in the moonlight reflection of all Greystone, Paul saw a small figure in a Fremen robe, and we're told her shadowed face peering out at him from the hood of the muzzle of sorry, hang on, I've written that down wrong. There's a shadowy face peering out at him from the hood, and the muzzle of a weapon pointed at him. Sorry, that's what I was trying to read there. Of course, this is Chani. There we go. That's why I'm missing that. And of course, she's going to introduce herself here. I am Chani, daughter of Liat. So, I suppose quite importantly, this is Liat Kynes' daughter. And of course, we know that Liat's dead at this point, but it seems that she does not. So the voice was lilting, half filled with laughter, evidence she doesn't know her father's dead. I would not have permitted you to harm my companions, she said. And Paul swallowed. This is the motif with Chani. He swallows a lot. So the figure in front of him turned into the moon's path. He's going to paint a nice picture for us here. This is our love interest in this story. He saw her elfin face with black pits of eyes. And we're told that the familiarity of that face, let me just read this actually, let's find it. The familiarity of that face, the features out of numberless visions in his earliest prescience, shocked Paul to stillness. He remembered the angry bravado with which he had once described this face from a dream, telling the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, I will meet her. And here was the face, but in no meeting he had ever dreamed. So that's the one we were talking about earlier, folks, where we were saying as much as that, I think we were pointing out about some of the visions that Paul has, as much as he's had visions of Chani, etc. Here was the face, but in no meeting that he'd ever dreamed. So this is new to him. I think he's a wee bit taken aback, maybe. Swallowed. It's a little bit stunned, possibly by just seeing her. And of course, we get the interruption of all this shouting up, I suppose. You're as noisy as Shai Halud in a rage, she said, and you took the most difficult way up here. Follow me, I'll show you an easier way down. So he scrambled out of the cleft, followed the swirling of her robe across a tumbled landscape. She moved like a gazelle, dancing over the rocks. Paul felt hot blood in his face, was thankful for the darkness. So he's flushed. That girl. And yeah, he's but what does he do? Where are we? On a page I haven't forgot the colour in. Let's see. Do. She was like a touch of destiny. 53 continued. He felt caught up on a wave in tune with emotion that lifted all his spirits. They stood presently amid the Fremen on the basin floor, so they've gone down. Jessica turns a wry smile to Paul and speaks to Stilgar. This will be a good exchange of teachings. I hope you and your people feel no anger at our violence. It seemed necessary. You were about to make a mistake. Very diplomatic, isn't it? They're apologizing for their violence. Basically all they've done is that Paul's laid out Jamis, but they're hoping nobody feels anger at the violence. And again, it's a wee bit of foreshadowing. We know that we're talking about the hot-headed, nobody's got their tempers earlier. It's going to be Jamis again he's not going to be able to sort of forgive, isn't it? You're about to make a mistake, as the way she put it. The response from Stilgar, I think, is also quite diplomatic. To save one from a mistake is a gift of paradise, Stilgar said. He touched his lips with his left hand and lifted as well, almost like a wee distraction, lifted the weapon from Paul's waist with the other, tossed it to a companion. You will have your own Mala pistol, lad, when you've earned it. So written down here from the terminology of the Imperium, a Mala pistol is a spring-loaded gun for firing poison darts, has a range of about 40 meters. So Paul starts to speak, but stops himself here, remembering Jessica's teachings. And of course, the teaching we talked about again, this book, beginnings are such delicate times. This is where our book begins, really, isn't it? If we go all the way to the beginning, a beginning is a time for taking the most delicate care that the balances are correct. Beginnings are such delicate times. A new beginning here for the two of them. And again, Jessica's the way she's working the Fremen still continues for her and her son. My son has what weapons he needs. And Jessica said, she stared at Stilgar, forcing him to think of how Paul had acquired the pistol. So my son has the weapons that he needs, and if he needs a weapon, he'll take it from you. It's a simple, pretty much is what I got from that. If he needs a gun, he'll take one. He doesn't need you to give him one. Don't know what you think about that. Intricals, very good. Learned that one. By the way, seems like the Sisterhood HBO series is really going to be set around the time soon after the Butlerian Jihad, like Brian's book. That would be like Norma Senva time, or is that before? I hope for some casting news on Sisterhood back in November. But young writers today would probably just write boing in describing Paul's first view of Chani. Gadong. I love boing. If you're, do you ever read 2000 AD Factor? Boing is a thing that's in Judge Dredd. It's a miracle plastic. It's quite an interesting thing in that world. The Secret Diary of Paul Atreides, age 15 and three quarters. That kind of thing. Mm. That'd be an interesting spoof, wouldn't it? So yeah, they're having wee subtle digs at each other, I think here. Um, uh, you have your own pistol when you earned it. You earned it by taking it off the other guy, I thought. Um, and I think that's pretty much what Jessica's feeding back here. Stilgar glanced at the man Paul had subdued. It's Jamis. The man stood at one side, head lowered, breathing heavily. You're a difficult woman, Stilgar said. He held out his left hand to a companion, snapped his fingers, kushti baka te. And again, the language here. As throughout this chapter, it's been revealing things to Jessica. More Jacobsa, she thinks. I've written down here that we'll get to this in a wee second. That Baka is the weeper who mourns for all mankind. Also, that a kushti is a sacred girdle worn by invested Zoroastrians. There you go. It's amazing all these words in Dune, isn't it? The things that you can learn just by looking up, trying to figure out what a word means. So one of Stilgar's companions puts 2 squares of gauze into Stilgar's hand, and he runs them through his fingers and fixes one around Jessica's neck beneath the hood and does the same to Paul's neck with the other. And he tells them that now they were the kerchief of the Baka. Baka is the weeper who mourns for all mankind. Let me just see if that's in the terminology. Yes, that's just where I got that from. In Fremen legend, the weeper who mourns for all mankind. Excuse me. And essentially, it's an identifier, isn't it? Now that you wear the kerchief of Baka, if we become separated, you'll be recognized as being from Stilgar's Sietch, essentially. We'll talk about weapons another time. Stilgar's just really wanting to get things going, I think, here, and wants to get things to get moved along. Excuse me. So he inspects the troop and gives Paul's Frem kit to one of the men to carry. And again, Jessica, this is where we're told Jessica recognizes the term Baka, the weeper. And again, what she gets from this, recognizing the religious term Baka, the weeper, she sensed how the symbolism of the kerchiefs united this band. Why should weeping unite them? She asked herself. So again, I suppose the use of these kerchiefs, if you like, are used as to identify somebody's from a particular Sietch, I suppose, and would be something that unites everybody from a particular Sietch, I think, if you see what I mean. She sensed how the symbolism of the kerchiefs united this band. And I've put a bit like, I think we've talked about the green garter, the green sash from the story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And if you ever get through that story or get to the end of it, it's a thing worn by all of the knights of the Round Table. As kind of in honor of Sir Gawain's qualities as a knight, if you like. So something like that. I thought, why would weeping unite them? Again, the association of tears. She doesn't get that yet. There's no association. Sorrow, grief, etc. Are probably, at some sort of cultural event. Let's see. Even the Messiah gets Twitter patted by a pretty girl. I need to read 2000 AD stuff still. Well, I suppose that Boeing is within 2000 AD. Fact, it's they have there's a really couple of good stories about it, but particularly they have this Boeing is they put people inside the plastic and cut it into balls and then fire them into gigantic ping pong, well, not ping pong balls. What am I thinking? What do you call it? Goodness gracious, I can't think of the name of the machines. Oh, my brain's shut down there. I'm thinking ping pong's the wrong word altogether. Let me see. Can't for the life of me think what you call pinball. That's what a pinball machine. That's sorry, but couldn't think of that at all. Yeah, and it's quite cool. Yeah, I got into a wee bit of some old 2000 stuff. I get the odd graphic novel or something that kind of picks up in my memory lately. So I got the Taxidermist recently. It was very good. That counts as I won my Spice Wars skirmish, but it was by hegemony rather than stonks. I only got to owning 41% of Cho market by the time I won. I accidentally turned my spice field into another Imperial base. I must have a wee go with this at some point. What's the game called again? Oh, it's up here somewhere, isn't it? There's quite a few Dune games about. New Dune Spice Wars update. Dune Spice Wars. Let's check it out. I could do with a new game, to be honest with you. Spice Wars. Something to, but then I have enough things to do. I suppose playing games. A new open world massive multi-online role-playing game is coming out. The current term young people use is bonk, though it refers to the sound of someone else hitting the reacting person with some kind of bat, and is usually followed up by "you're going to horny jail." Bonk, bonking, boing, bonk. Very good. I think it's an MMO anyway. Interesting. I don't think I've ever played one. Pretty sure I haven't actually. I kind of always wanted to have a look at Eve Online, but thought I would just probably get lost in that for forever. Right. Oh yeah. So yeah, why would weeping unite them? So, we're told that Stilgar came to the young girl who had embarrassed Paul and said, "Chani, take the child man under your wing. Keep him out of trouble." And of course, Chani touches Paul's arm. "Come along, child man." I think he's been man, child, man, all sorts of variations of this throughout this chapter. It's quite funny, I think. And of course, it says Paul hid the anger in his voice, but he's not liking this. "My name is Paul. It were well that you," and it sounds like he's about to take off on one there, but he's basically silenced and told that "we'll give you a name, Manling," Stilgar said. And I thought that's a good example of, I suppose, how Stilgar operates. I think if Stilgar called him man-child again, or child man, that it would have pissed him off quite badly. So he switches the term and calls him a manling. "We'll give you a name, Manling, in the time of the Mina, at the test of Aquil," if that's how we pronounce that. Now, I've written that Aquil is the test of reason, as the Arabic word has lots of meanings, including mind, logic, reason, etc. And Mina is the season for testing Fremen youths, the admittance to manhood. In Arabic, it is a test or ordeal. Again, I've just taken my info from Khaled Bahaldin's website, and that looks at Arabic and Islamic terms in Dune's pretty good source, pretty good resource if anybody wants to check it out. Now, and again, of course, Jessica translates, there's me jumping the gun with my notes. She translates this for us anyway. The test of reason, Jessica translated. The sudden, and I think this is a really interesting little bit here. This is, I don't know what's going on here. The sudden need of Paul's ascendancy overrode all other considerations. And she barked, "My son's been tested by the Gom Jabbar." The stillness that followed, she knew she had struck to the heart of them. She's really messing with these people. She's poking at them deliberately, and she's looking for control. And Paul's ascendancy is above all things. And ascendancy, I think, when she's literally, we're going to see a little bit more about this. I think there's real insight into Jessica just in this wee moment here. Ascendancy to what? It's to the throne, and he is the Kwisatz Haderach. This kind of thing, I think. But and I think we get a little bit of a clue to that a little bit later. But it has an impact. He's been tested by the Gom Jabbar, the high-handed enemy. There's much we don't know of each other, Stilgar said, but we tarry overlong. Again, this desire to get moving. Day sun mustn't find us out in the open. Again, a bit of knowledge about Arrakis. He crossed to the man Paul had struck down and said, "Jamis, can you travel?" And we're told a grunt answered him. "Surprised me, he did. 'Twas an accident. I can travel." And of course, Stilgar, no accident. I'll hold you responsible with Chani for the lad's safety, Jamis. These people have my countenance. So this is another, again, what Jessica's picking up here. And Jessica stares at Jamis. She's heard murder in his voice before. His was the voice that had argued with Stilgar from the rocks. His was the voice with death in it. And Stilgar had seen fit to reinforce his order with this Jamis, that they have countenance with him. So I think she's identified him as a threat right here. I've kind of highlighted this passage all in red. And again, bit of foreshadowing, I suppose. Jamis is a threat. Stilgar glances across the group, motions for two men out to come out. We're told they're called Laris and Farouk. And he says to them, "Hide our tracks, see that we leave no trace. Take extra care that we have two with us who have not been trained." And so they head out. And again, they're taking extra care, more precautions, because they have two strangers with them. So he turned, hand upheld, and aimed across the basin in squad line with flankers. "Move out. We must be at the Cave of the Ridges before dawn." Cave of the Ridges. And again, I suppose, do we have a wee bit of this on our cartography, on our map at the start here? Let me see. I'm pretty sure we do. Sietch Tabr. Yeah, Cave of Riches. So we're able to, if you're into these kind of things, and I really enjoy this in a book. If you've got a book with a map, you can start sort of seeing, following the journey of the characters on the map. I think it's good fun. So Jessica fell into step beside Stilgar, counting heads. So the troop, there's 40 of them in all. And with Paul and Jessica, the troop becomes 42. And she thought, they travel as a military company. Even the girl, Chani. Made me ask, is Chani the only girl here? And it seems so, possibly. Paul took a place in line behind Chani. And we're told he put down the black feeling of being caught by a girl. Dear, oh dear. Poor Paul. In his mind now was the memory called up by his mother's barked reminder. My son's been tested with the gom jabbar. He found that his hand tingled with the remembered pain. So, watch where you go, Chani hissed. Do not brush against the bush, lest you leave a thread to show our passage. And again, Paul swallowed. Okay, Chani. Nodded. So the last bit of the chapter really is some more of Jessica's observations, and I suppose a little bit about, find out a little bit more about her. She listens to the sound of the troop, her own footsteps and Paul's, and she marvels at the way the Fremen move. 40 people crossing the basin with only the sounds that are natural to the place. Ghostly feluccas, their robes flitting through the shadows. We think we've had feluccas mentioned before. They're a kind of traditional sailing boat, wooden sailing boat. And their destination, Sietch Tabr, Stilgar's siege. And she turns the word over in her mind. Again, what we learn from language. Sietch, it was a Chagobsa word, unchanged from the old hunting language of countless centuries. Sietch, a meeting place in time of danger. The profound implications of the word and the language were just beginning to register with her after the tension of their encounter. So I suppose that the fact that a place to meet in a time of danger, that should register enough. I've put down here that also seek, similar words. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, as in the seek or Al seek. Is the name of the main entrance to the city of Petra. I suppose the transliteration would be AL-SIQ. I think you can have a look at it on Wikipedia. And that's quite suggestive of the Sietches, I think. Yeah, this is the bit where I've written down Chakobsa, hunting or court language from Northwest Caucasian group. There we go. And we had somebody giving us a bit more information on that earlier. That's where we got to that. Let's have a wee look. We move well, Stilgar said. With Shai Hulud's favour, we'll reach the Cave of Ridges before dawn. And Jessica nodded. Now, this is the wee bit I think is kind of interesting. Conserving her strength, sensing. I'll tell you what, actually, let's just read this. I think it's quite important. Conserving her strength, sensing the terrible fatigue that she held at bay by force of will, and she admitted it by the force of elation. Her mind focused on the value of this trip, seeing what was revealed here about the Fremen culture. All of them, she thought, an entire culture trained to military order. What a priceless thing is here for an outcast duke. And that's, I suppose, the scary bit I think about Jessica. She's elated. First and foremost, and just linking that, goodness, my eyesight's gone completely. I should put my glasses back on. If we just backed up a wee bit, just to the point where the sudden need of Paul's ascendancy overrode all other consideration. And her elation, they're a thing for my son. What a priceless thing is here for an outcast duke. And that thing is the Fremen. Trained an entire culture, trained to military order, and that she's manipulating the heck out of right now. And I suppose, as I said, one of the things that we look at in Dune, it's quite important, is how the Fremen are the Fremen aren't just manipulated by one group of people; they're manipulated by all sorts of people. And we're seeing this in full swing here. It's a great chapter. It's full of action. We get to introducing. I suppose we're really hitting the immersion into the Fremen culture now. We've got a Jessica just kicking ass, dominating this chapter entirely. Paul very much drifting up into the shadows. And we get a good look at Stilgar and also this dangerous creature that's flitting about, Jamis, that Paul makes short work of quite easily. Let me catch up with some of your comments, folks. Let me see where we are. So Frank should update that part of the novel battling the phrase presently Paul deserved to be bumped. Yeah, Frank should do that. Oh, it's very good. Why wonder that weeping would bind to people? Earlier, Jessica one-upped Mapes' question with a veiled threat in the phrase, there are worse things than dying, even for an entire people. Oh, I don't know. That sounds a bit hyperbolic. If an entire people are dead, I don't think there's much that could be worse for them. I like the way you put that, Cynthia. Earlier, Jessica one-upped Mapes' questions with a veiled threat in the phrase, there are worse things than dying, even for an entire people. The hint of genocide. Joseph Smith says, that makes me wonder what is worse than dying. There we go. Just caught up with that thought. What is worse than dying for an entire people? Can't figure for it. It seems like Spice Wars has a 20% discount on Steam for a couple of days. It's like $30 at full. So yes, how would the Fremen answer this? I think of slavery, shame, or a spiritual state like damnation. I suppose, yeah. I mean, not. I suppose religion does have that, isn't it? In some aspects, that there are, according to some theologies, etc., things that are worse than death, eternal damnation, burning for all eternity, and this kind of thing. Oh yeah, slavery. Oh my god, I'm dumb sometimes. Says Joseph. Yes, I suppose. Death's pretty final, though. I think. Thank you about this. Cynthia says Joseph. Another thing worse than dying, from chapter 30, no more terrible disaster can befall your people than for them to fall into the hands of a hero. Yeah, no more terrible disaster. I'm sure there would be a few. Not to get political, that passage still applies to us today. Yes, I do agree with that. I think the warnings of Dune are totally relevant, and the dangerous hero, regardless of what sphere of influence they come from, whether religious, political, military, um, thespian, doesn't really matter. Yeah. Carol says, I'm yawning like crazy. It's 1 a.m. Oh, it's 12:07 here. So I'll go sleep. Good night. Thanks very much for joining us, Karen. Yeah, night night. Don't let the bad bugs bite, as they say. All the best. Take care, man. Fact and non-verbal, all things are political. Unless they're apolitical. Fact, I suppose. All things are related to the happiness of mankind, I suppose, is the way I would interpret that. Playing House Carino was more exhausting than I thought. I might check that game out at some point. Bojack Harkness is saying goodnight. Fact of worse than death would be to become a family or a tribe of cannibals. Worse than death, falling out of memory, to be completely forgotten. We do seem to be drawn to hero worship, sadly. Yeah, it's a big part of our. Yeah, we like to admire those things that we can. I don't know. Hero worship's a weird thing, isn't it? I suppose it's an interesting thing, and I think we all love heroes to some degree. I think we all have heroes. To go into memory is opposite or counter to what you were. Yeah, I'd say that I've spoken to my wife about this. I think just in generally things like dementia and stuff like that. If you were ended up if you ended up behaving in some way that was appalling to you, I think that would be pretty bad, and that you couldn't do anything about it. But I've been told that's not likely to happen. I think you just tend to go with your own behavior, that kind of thing, you know. But yeah, there are many things. I don't know, things worse than death. It's a hyperbolic statement, isn't it? There's a one of the culture books is pretty good. It deals with all these virtual hells. I'm wondering, is it? I think it's. Let me see. It's not. Oh, let me just quickly type in. Pardon me. I think it's surface detail. Yeah, that's the one. Some of the plot occurs in simulated environments. This is just off Wikipedia. I wasn't sure if I had the right book. As the book begins a war game, the war in heaven has been running for several decades. The outcome of the simulated war will determine whether societies are allowed to run artificial hells, virtual afterlives in which the mind states of the dead are tortured. The culture, fiercely anti hell, has opted to stay out of the war while accepting the outcome as binding. That's a good book, actually. I've only read it once, but I thought Surface Detail was very good. In fact, the last three culture books I think are brilliant. You know, there we go. But yeah, there we are, folks. Well, thank you very much all for joining me tonight. Yeah, leaves us all with I suppose debating that question: what is worse than a fate? What is worse than a fate? Worse than death? I suppose, or what's worse than death, but what is worse than a fate worse than death? It's one of those ones, isn't it? I don't know. It's an interesting thing. But there we are. Listen, folks, I'm going to save my throat for next week, but we will be back again next Thursday, same time, hopefully. I'm not too sure. I must check when the clocks all change. I have no idea when that occurs. Uh, when do the clocks change? That's a good question. 30th of October. Oh, not for a while yet. There we go. Same June time, same June channel. So this says, thanks, Doc. Awesome job, Doc. There we go. Oh, thank you very much, guys. Yeah, I'm getting back into it slowly. I think the first one there, I wasn't quite back in the swing of things, but I've enjoyed this one today. And yeah, it's a good chapter. It's a good fun chapter, and it is a good. It's leading up to certain things, and it has a really good sort of combination of action and intrigue and mystery. And really, just I think it's fantastic getting to see Jessica operate this way and really demonstrate how powerful she is. You know how utterly powerful she is. I very much had a solid chapter for Jessica, I think. So thank you very much, guys. We'll definitely be back at 10 o'clock GMT +1 next time, next Thursday. And we'll be keeping it regular pretty much the from now on, hopefully. And hope if we can get a wee bit of extra time. We're a bit busy at the minute, but we're trying to get settled back into the swing of things. Excuse me. Hopefully we'll get a few other programs and things up and running. And hoping to have a wee audio book done very shortly as well. Just something wee short thing that I'd like to dedicate to my wee doggy that passed. So yeah. In the meantime, I hope you're all looking after yourselves. Take care wherever you are. I know the world's going a bit crazy. And we'll see you same time next week. And once again, thanks very much for joining us. Take care and all the very best. Bye-bye. See you later, folks.